Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Porters, and I'm joined, as always, by Sean Keenan.
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Heidi.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I boxed a teacher in high school once, too, but Mrs. Porter knocked me out cold.
Ba-dum, boom, 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 boom. I would love to see, like, Bruce Leslie in a boxing ring with, like, just that real... You know the type of gym teacher that's just like, if it weren't for the mustache, I wouldn't know it was a dude. And just kind of going, I think we all had those. And Bruce just fighting him and just getting whooped up on. Oh, I would pay to go back in time and see that. For those of you that can't put things together, what you're listening to right now is just the it's the theme song to The Greatest American Hero, which is what we're going to be reviewing today. Where there's a pilot episode. My Lord, this song goes on, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It lasted for a full 3 years.
A full 3 years, but we're going to be discussing the kind of two-part pilot today, and I think we're going to have a good time here. This is one that was very up you guys' alley and everything, so I was just like, I'm interested to see. I knew for a long time Bruce was a giant fan.
I'm an above average fan. I don't know about a giant. Revisiting things you think you love isn't always a good idea.
Well, this much is very, very true. Sean, were you like, was it a thing for you back in the day, or was it just kind of a like, I kind of saw it when it was on?
No, I was a massive fan. My only problem with it was that as a kid, I thought it would be funnier because all of the commercials were him like whoa, crashing. And like smashing into buildings and stuff. And we'll get into it later, but it's not nearly, the tone of it is not nearly as funny as a child wants it to be, you know?
Yeah. And someday I will go as the greatest American hero for Halloween. I just haven't worked up the courage yet.
Got to get them locks, baby. The locks.
I was going to say, you gotta dye your hair?
No, I'm going to buy the wig, man. The William Katt wig's one of the best sellers around Halloween time.
And if you don't do it then, like then the year after that, you can be Dog the Bounty Hunter, whatever you want to do, man. This, the world is your oyster.
Sammy Hagar.
Ooh, oh, there you go. Practicing some splits and stuff. I don't know what the heck Sammy Hagar does anymore.
One year I went as Rowdy Roddy Piper and no one knew who I was.
That's a nice dress there, young man. I'm Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Literally what everyone kept saying was that the guy dressed as an ugly girl.
A schoolgirl, because it's a plaid skirt.
Not as sexy as I wanted it to be, I'll tell you that much. Oh man! Let's before we get into everything, we want to thank the people over at Patreon. You guys are really stepping up the game. We got new pledges here. Edward Tanzer, it just gave us a little bit there, as well as the great Maria Bruce. We always hear from Maria quite often, and she actually wrote us an email. We'll get to that in just a moment, but I do want to talk about the Patreon and stuff for those of you who don't follow us on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. We've kind of revamped some stuff. There's some really awesome stuff going on, and we got a video there that explains everything, patreon.com/HMP. So, all the levels are there, so you can either, depend upon where you kind of throw your dollar bill. You can vote on the, program that we'll watch for one of the weeks of the year, or month rather. You'll also be able to have a RSS feed that's got the pre-show, post-show, no ads, and all that kind of good stuff. So all that stuff, check it out, patreon.com/HMP. A lot of good stuff coming to those people's ways. I'll tell you that much right now. Oh, and by the way, because we've had a couple people buy shirts and stuff from us before. If you do donate at that $5 level, not only do you get the show without ads, pre-show, post-show, you'll also be put into a drawing to win either like a T-shirt or a mug or a notebook or something like that. We got a lot of neat stuff that we're going to do, and because we want to give back to you guys for giving to us and helping make this show as good as it can be, man.
Yeah.
So because she's from the old Patreon here, we're gonna hit up the mailbag here real quick and talk to Maria here, and let's open up that mailbag, shall we? See if this works right.
Mail's here.
There we go. This one's from Maria. Hi, guys. So my husband is a huge DC Comics nerd in that almost every Marvel movie he watches, he points out who in DC would kick the Marvelinian's butt. Yes, I totally just made up the word Marvelinian.
I like this.
Also, he says he doesn't want to see it because they borrowed from 3 different stories and couldn't get that right. The borrow I have to edit here a little bit.
Killing it.
Hey, I'm just reading how it's wrote, baby. They borrowed from different Elseworlds books, and he hates Ben Affleck, so he will not watch these DC movies. I literally just asked him on purpose for this email. So I saw it already, but I saw it already, but I want him to see it so I can ask him some comic-related questions. Literally, I gave him the hall pass to criticize as we watched, and he still refuses to give it a chance. So my question to you is, how can I convince him to watch it with me, or should I just give up asking? Love you guys. You are always awesome. That's Maria from upstate New York. So this is an interesting one, because usually it's the guy who's just like, come on, baby, it's a superhero movie. It's got hunky men in it. You like that stuff, right? And but now actually trying to pull the leg of somebody from DC who loves DC stuff but loves it so much that he cannot see it sullied upon the screen. Bruce, I think you of all people, because of the encyclopedic knowledge that you have, really could probably speak to this better than anyone else. What can we say to someone who's in this predicament?
Now, what is it she's trying to get him to watch again?
Batman v Superman.
Oh, it's easy. Just man, that's a tough sell.
She hates
it's long.
She hates Affleck.
Here's what you do. Here's what you got to do. You got to say, listen, I know it's not very good, but it makes up for it by being really long. So think of it. It's a win-win. It's quantity over quality here.
Yeah. Skip I'd say skip at least the first 45 minutes. You don't really need it, frankly. You don't get a lot from it. Anyone disagree with that?
I've only seen it the one time. Have you guys seen it more than once?
I have, yeah.
I bought the 4K Blu-ray and everything. I'm like, I'm gonna give this extended shot a chance. I literally got 45 minutes, and I'm like, good gravy. Nothing has really been different from the theatrical cut, and I'm bored, so I stopped watching.
Just tell him you can see Zod's wiener.
Zod's wiener. I mean, go back to that episode. We talk about that and how maybe he might get a chance to see Michael Shannon's hog. Who knows? I don't know what he's into. Who am I to say? It's like, hey, odd character actor Michael Shannon. Ever think about seeing his dong? Well, check out Batman v Superman. It may or may not be in there. I don't know if you got a 4K
got some
TV.
Good news for you.
Or just tell him it's a political drama starring Holly Hunter and that it's really good.
Yeah, there you go. And a jar of some sort. Who's to say? That's the mystery jar.
Granny's peach tea.
Yeah. Yeah, is he a big iced tea fan?
Ask him if he's likes to watch workout videos and get him to watch Ben Affleck doing his P90X there with the tires and everything.
He doesn't like Affleck, so that's no good. Affleck's
tell him,
not a game changer here.
Hey, look at it this way. The good part is there's no Matt Damon in this movie.
I like Matt Damon.
I'm trying to think of what is the best part about Superman Batman? I can't even think of what the best part of that movie is.
The absolute best part is when Wonder Woman jumps out and they play that Junkie XL music and she kind of makes that little smirk. It's a very short moment, but it's absolutely the high point of the film.
The part from the trailer?
No, I don't think that part was in the trailer quite the same, but it just really is awesome when she comes on the scene in Wonder Woman gear and saves Batman's life. That's pretty cool.
Her stuff is cool. I do like Affleck as Batman. I think, with what he had to do, to work with, I think he did just fine.
Was not the problem. Yeah.
Nope.
And it's interesting because, like, everybody, he's all the news reports now are Affleck is tired of being asked about Batman. He's just like, everybody got to pump the brakes on this. He's like, I just want to make a good movie, and if they won't, let me, I'm not gonna just jump into this full force without making a good flick. And I think they've actually already kind of pushed back the release date of that already, just because they haven't gotten a script together yet. And I think that's a good thing. I think they need to go for, hey, let's push for the highest piece of quality that we can do, as opposed to just going, well, we made a release date. That just doesn't end up well.
And Affleck has been named as the director, right?
Yeah, director and co-writer with.
Yeah, so it's going to be solid, man. It's going to be solid.
So
it doesn't have to be the greatest movie ever made to be a good movie.
Guys, imagine Argo, but with Batman.
Hey, Jack Kirby was a big part of the real life Argo.
Was he really? I did not know that.
Oh yeah,
he did like the concept art that they used for
Oh,
Project
wow,
Argo.
that's
Like they were
really
supposed to
cool.
be making a movie, a movie called
Yeah.
Argo that was a sci-fi movie. So he did the storyboards for this fictional movie. It was Jack Kirby that drew those storyboards.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, and he got short shrift in the movie. I thought he would have a bigger part.
Yes.
Wow, somebody didn't give him enough credit for what he did.
Stan Lee strangely had a cameo. I still don't understand that.
I told you I'd just pop in that thing and be there, true believers, and sure as shooting I was, even though I wasn't even there. But you know who they got to play him, though, right?
No.
Michael Parks, man.
That's cool.
Michael
That's
Parks
cool.
plays Kirby, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Batman v Superman. Sometimes, you just have to pick your battles, and that might be one you just don't win.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell our friend from upstate.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Watch something that's like the most god-awful thing that you can find, and then just go like, or we could watch this Batman v Superman, then it's like, okay, maybe. But, okay, I'm going to reach out to him at this point, Come on, man. She wants to talk about stuff that you're interested in. You have the ability to crap on it all you want. Guys, when's the last time your lady said, "Hey, I give you free reign to just poop over everything that we're doing right now"? That doesn't happen, man. Take that ribbon and run, man.
And as a fan of the comic books, maybe like you said, a fellow after my own heart there, it's worth watching just to see the Dark Knight power suit that Frank Miller created on the screen. I never thought I'd see something like that in live action, and it's done really well.
That bit is really cool looking. I mean, there's no getting around it. That whole scene and the rain and stuff, it looks awesome. So there's that.
I'd venture a guess it'll also be a long, long time before you get a chance to see Doomsday in live action again. So you might just want to check it out for the novel.
Oh,
that's pretty great, though. That's really good that we won't.
That's my point. Poor us. We don't get to see Doomsday in another live action thing for a long, long time. My heart is breaking. Please.
I want him to bring back Man in a Rubber Suit like they did on Smallville.
Look, they could do anything that might be better than what they, hoisted upon us there. That's no darn good. All right,
I've never seen a single frame of that show.
It's out there.
Yeah.
It's got some novelty value depending on who the guest star is, but it's not something I would say you're going to want to binge watch the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like the parts of the Flash that you don't like. There's way more of that.
There's a lot of that.
There's way more of that.
Oh, it's kind of like the blueprint that they've improved on to get to where Flash is.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's just cool though. I like to watch clips more than whole episodes because I love to see like a live action Dr. Fate, a live action Booster Gold, to see Blue Beetle actually on a live action TV screen. Some of that stuff is fun for me. More than the story itself.
Sure.
So end of the story, don't watch Batman v Superman. You just save yourself the trouble.
Yeah, just go watch. Get him to watch like 5 seasons of Smallville and tell him he doesn't have to watch the remaining 5 if he'll agree to watch that movie.
Boom. Mission accomplished. All right. And of course, if you want to email us, heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. Let's close up the mailbag.
Bale's here.
All right. Now, before we get into the show properly, we do have one more piece of business right here. We don't have any new iTunes reviews on the U.S. charts, but that's when we head on over to our good friends here in the U.K., and they drop us a 5-star review over there. This one's entitled, no less, Humdinger.
Humdinger.
5 stars. It is by Ibrahim and Pamela. And it reads as follows. Fantastic show. Everything you need from a podcast. Funny, informative, interesting. That's interesting that I can't say that word. And comprehensive. These guys have natural chemistry together, which makes listening to them a real pleasure. The Stallone connection always rises a smile. I've always enjoyed working my way through the HMP back catalog and look forward to each new episode. Keep up the good work, guys. That is from Ibrahim and Pamela. 5 stars, a.k.a. Humdinger. No matter what country you're in, you can head on down to the iTunes and give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we'd really appreciate that, man. So thank you guys so much. So without further ado, let's get into it, boys. I got to change over the tab where it's got the trailer. Now, I'm going to do a little something different. We're going to play 2 trailers, but they're only 30 seconds long apiece, so it's not too long. But I want to show you the difference between what ABC advertising how they tried to pitch this and everything. So let's listen to some promos.
Take heart, America. At last, help is on the way. He may be unable to leap tall buildings in a single bound. He may be slower than a speeding bullet, and he may be less powerful than a locomotive. But he's working on it.
Butterfingers.
Give the poor guy a chance. He's just getting started.
Good God, Ralph. Superpowers.
But when he gets it going, there's no stopping him. Make way for the greatest American hero. He's coming to save us this Wednesday. Take heart, America. At last, help is on the way. A man strong enough to crush the forces of evil. A man tender enough to capture the heart of a woman.
Look at it this way. You're one step ahead of Lois Lane. She never found out who Clark Kent really was.
A man who can face an army of bullets and live to tell about it. He is the greatest American hero, and he'll be here this Wednesday. Be patient, America.
Wednesday night, here on ABC.
All right, those were two trailers for The Greatest American Hero. The pilot debuted in 1981. Here's the IMDb plotline. A teacher is asked to be a superhero using special alien suit with powers he can barely understand or control. This is starring William Katt, Connie Sellecca, and the great Robert Culp. So this doesn't exactly translate one-to-one to comic books, but my best guess is our friend Bruce Leslie's got some heck of a comic book connection for us.
Well, superheroes who derive their power from their suit and don't necessarily have an instruction manual is something that's occurred on a couple of occasions. The first thing that popped to mind for me was X-O Man of War from Valiant Comics. It's the story of Auric of Dacia, who was the heir to the throne of the Visigoth people. He was raised under the oppressive thumb of the Roman Empire back in the 400s AD in Europe, and his entire life was a never-ending series of battles against Romans. Then suddenly this far more terrifying enemy came into play. It was an alien race known as the Vine. He was abducted during a midnight scouting raid and taken deep into space, where he and his fellow Visigoth captives had to live their lives as slaves to the aliens. There didn't seem to be any hope of escape, but after spending several years as a slave on this Vine colony spaceship, Auric did lead a revolt of the other captives against their captors, and he stormed into like the central part of the spaceship where they had this powerful relic called Shannara, the sentient X-O Man of War armor. So he stole that armor as a way to escape and return to Earth. And through the miracle of interstellar travel, he returned to Earth 1,600 years into the future, more or less roughly modern day. So it's a fish out of water being a Visigoth. He's also got this alien power suit. And on top of it all, he doesn't quite know how the power suit works. There's another guy kind of in this mold, and that's a guy named Booster Gold. He's a disgraced former football player from the future, and he was able to get a job as a night watchman at the Metropolis Space Museum, where he studied displays about superheroes and villains from the past, particularly the 20th century. He used one of the security robots named Skeets to help him steal some devices from the museum, including a flight ring from the Legion of Superheroes. He also got a force-filled belt that once belonged to Brainiac 5, and he used Rip Hunter's time sphere to travel back to the 20th century intent on becoming a superhero using what amounted to futuristic security guard equipment. Now, there's also the story of Erwin Schwab. I don't know if you guys know who Erwin Schwab is, but you're about to find out. Erwin Schwab has some mental problems, and he also found a suit of alien origins. Now, this suit that Erwin found belonged to a guy named Brum L of the planet Schwab. And the thing about Brum L is he was voted the best-dressed man in the galaxy for something like 10 years straight. Now, Brum L found out that his planet was doomed to be destroyed, and he created a ship that was only big enough to carry one thing to safety. And he decided that he wasn't going to put his wife in that ship, nor was he going to put his son, Mongrel, into the ship. Instead, he sent his most valued loved one instead, his wardrobe. Now, on its way to safety, the shuttle ran afoul of a radioactive space spider, and the spaceship was destroyed, only leaving 2 articles of clothing to survive. One of them was a sentient sock named Argyle, and the other one was the ambush bug suit. Now, Erwin Schwab found these items when they crashed to Earth, and he became a nuisance, a hero, and a villain, all wrapped into one. Now, all of this, of course, leads us up to Ralph Hinkley, a.k.a. Ralph Hanley. Some aliens gave him a suit and he lost the instructions. Of course, he didn't get a sentient sock in the deal, but he did get the next best thing, Robert Culp. Now, in 2008, William Katt wrote a 3-issue miniseries comic that updated Ralph for modern times. It came and went without a ton of attention, so to the best of my knowledge, there's no further comic book plans for the greatest American hero. But fear not, we'll always have Hulu and YouTube.
Now, Sean, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there anyone else in this world that would do what this guy, what Bruce just did? Any of the rest of us watch this, and what's the first thing that we just go, it's Green Lantern, piece of cake. He goes Exo, Man of War, and Booster Gold. That's how you know
and
Bruce is
Ambush Bug.
And Ambush Bug.
Yeah, Ambush Bug, I think, is the closest comparison.
But that's what we got on our hands here. This is why Bruce will never go away from this program. He's just too darn good at what he does. Ain't no way I'd pull that out of my keister. My goodness. So it's
all about the clothes, the wardrobe.
Exactly. So it's 1981. I'm not born yet, so I don't know nothing about this. So let's set the stage. What's you guys, kind of situation at this time of the world?
Well, I know that I watched this live, on Wednesday night on what was still a black and white TV in my trailer there in the Salyers Trailer Park in Jackson, Kentucky. But I watched this real time, and I was playing Greatest American Hero the next day with my friends.
I am about 8. I watched it every chance I got, but my house was a sports house, so I didn't get to watch what I wanted all the time. I had to watch like Yankees games a lot of the time, and I was a Red Sox fan, to add insult to injury. So when I was able to watch the show, on the rare case when I could actually watch what I wanted, I would be able to watch Greatest American Hero, and I can remember thinking, I can't believe I'm watching the show that I like so much. And you know what? I think I even said it at the top of the show. I was always disappointed whenever I watched it as a kid, because it wasn't what the commercials told you it was. Like, it's not funny. Like, there's a theme problem that this show has, because it's very earnest, which I actually like about it. But it's like it's earnest to a point, and they're also they also make that huge mistake of trying to right society's ills. So there's oh, and let me tell you about nuclear arms, like the stuff like that, where it's just like, wow, this is like, guys, you are a show on ABC on Wednesdays.
Thanks,
like, it's
Superman
okay.
5.
And rewatching this movie, kind of, I'm surprised I didn't have any memory of like the high school students or the teacher side of things. I remembered Bill Maxwell, Robert Culp's character, pretty well. I thought Connie Sellecca would have been in it way more than she was. And I also had memories of way more superheroics than what we got in this 2-hour pilot here.
Yeah, me too. It's really surprising, actually, how little the show is what you think it is. And it's also surprising the tone of it. He's a bleeding heart liberal, and the FBI agent is a hawk, and they're always at odds with each other. I didn't remember that from being a kid. I didn't remember that there was a small boy on the show, but I looked it up, and it turns out that later in the series they kind of, what kid?
He kind of goes upstairs and never comes down again.
Exactly.
Got a little Family Matters action.
So
see you guys next week.
If we ever have a sitcom, we totally have to do that with a character.
I say we do it. If we ever have a sitcom, we do it every episode. Like a different character disappears. It's our version of the red shirt on Star Trek.
I did have an idea, like, once for just like something that you would throw into like a funny movie, where every scene there, like, you had the same character, but every scene that actor would change. They're always like just wearing like a Hawaiian shirt or something, and no one, like, everyone's just like confused for half a second, then they just get right back into it.
It's like the fake Darren kind of thing.
Exactly. It's just like once it's a short guy, it's a tall guy, it's a fat guy, it's a skinny guy. All of a sudden, it's a girl, and then they just call him Ralph the entire time or something.
It's like that Kiss movie where they don't get one of the guys from Kiss, and it's clearly a black guy in the face paint at one point.
That is great.
It's awesome.
But
I would say that when I was a kid, though, my favorite part of this pilot was probably when the Super Friends was on the TV and the kid was watching it, because I loved the Super Friends.
Man, I can't believe how old those guys' voices are. Because I haven't seen it since I was a kid. So hearing what Superman and Batman's voice sounds like, it's just like, holy crap, they're old.
I'm just a geriatric old man doing this voiceover for some silly cartoon, whatever the hell that is.
I'm pretty sure it was Walter Cronkite that did Superman's voice.
It's a day which will live in infamy. Now, go ahead.
And Andy Rooney was Robin.
You know the weird thing about bat caves? They're always dank.
But man, Warner Brothers sued ABC over this show, and I'm kind of surprised that they had, Warner Brothers properties, the Super Friends, in the show.
Dude, I spent this entire thing going. No one asked for permission for any of this stuff, because we get we get the Super Friends stuff, we get an Elton John song, we get a David Bowie song, which aren't like the A recordings; they're like a B take. That wasn't quite that, but it's still clearly them. But that and the Beach Boys song and all of that was just like, you didn't ask for any of this, did you? You just kind of did it. And we're like, well, it's television in the 80s. It's going to air once and it'll be gone forever. Screw it. We'll have
no
some
fear of a
Beach Boys.
C&D back then.
No, it's just like, hey, let's just throw a Beach Boys track on there. We won't throw the A side. We'll throw like a B take on there, and therefore they can't get mad about that, right? Maybe.
So Bruce, what was the biggest surprise to you rewatching this?
How long it took him to put the suit on.
Man, you're not kidding.
I can't believe I made it to the good parts, so to speak, the quote-unquote good parts as a kid. There's no way that my youngest child, who's about the age I would have been in 81, there's no way he's sitting through this until the suit gets put on. But I remember, like in my memory, this was all 80% him in the suit crashing.
Yeah, you're right. I'm trying to put my thoughts together here. As a kid, I remember thinking that he was a dumb guy in a suit, but watching it as an adult, it's like, oh, he's not dumb. He just doesn't have the instructions. As an adult, I will say this also. He's lost the instructions walking a mile from the crash site of the alien. Yeah. Why didn't they go back? It's a mile stretch of highway.
And it like glows and stuff. It'd be pretty easy to find. Not to mention, the guy's a school teacher. You got to think he's used to not losing stuff that way.
And it plops awful loud on that ground, man. It's like you did not hear that thing.
It's like it looks kind of like an 8-track tape.
It falls out, it hits him on the leg, and then hits the ground in a big, giant, flopping manner, and he's just like, I don't know what happened to it.
And, I never really remembered much about the school side of things, and I definitely didn't remember that these are supposed to be special ed kids. Do you think the people that made this movie, was it Stephen J. Cannell or Cannell? I'm not sure how you say his name. Cannell. Do you think he doesn't quite know what special ed is? Because I didn't get the idea that this was a special ed class at all.
I think
back then
that's
what it is. It's the kids with a learning disability class.
It seemed more like behavior problems and not necessarily learning disabilities too.
Well, they're clearly trying to make them the sweat hogs,
it's a Welcome Back Kotter with blonde hair.
There was a Mr. Kotter moment in there too, where like he asked questions like, oh.
We've even got a Vinny Barbarino in here, man. This guy.
Eddie from Eddie and the Cruisers.
Yeah. I mean, he's absolutely Eddie. But then I got really distracted because I started thinking how awesome this show would be if Gabe Kaplan was the greatest American hero.
They couldn't get him. He was unavailable.
He's
busy working on Battle of the Network Stars and stuff.
He's got to learn to do that flame juggling or whatever. Man, that's a show that needs to be brought back. People would do anything to be on TV back then.
And now.
That's true.
The only difference is they weren't circulating sex tapes back then.
You had to get them on 8mm back then.
A little tougher to find. But he's going into the school, and you're right. They set up the character great. He's just like, I'm gonna reach these kids. I was like, oh, we got the white Edward James Olmos in here coming in to throw some smackdown on these kids.
Yeah. Oh man. And something else about this too that I didn't quite remember. I mean, but back to the special ed real quick. They make it sound like these kids are in here by choice though, because at the end of the movie, the one girl, Darla or whatever her name is, she like consciously decides to go back to the regular school. It's like you can leave at any time. Nobody wants to. It's like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest here.
Nobody let me leave my dumb classes. They were just like, no,
But
no,
they do
you're here
break out
for a reason.
They do break out a short bus for the field trip. I love that. I haven't seen a short bus in a long time.
The old classic short bus. So, like, all right, so he gets in his first day on the job, his first 5 minutes on the job, and he just goes, "We're going on a field trip." How does that make any sense?
And I don't think they had any permission slips, and they got back well after dark.
And they're in their 30s in high school.
He takes them all out of there, and then it's just like, didn't think to get them back to school by the, by the end of the day there, before school lets out. Nah, we're just going to keep them till the end of the day. And then, like, what was the field trip consist of? To a diner, and that's it?
No, they were going to the desert. What? I kind of wonder exactly. That's a great way to deal with troubled kids. That they're just causing all kinds of havoc at school. Just take them to the desert all day, every day. It's almost like that movie Holes.
That way, if
Hey,
you got to
kids,
bury a body.
I want to show you where I put the other bodies. I mean,
Once you get into this van.
Oh man, I love it too because I don't know. I didn't go to the roughest school, but we still didn't have kids that would pull out switchblades on field trips. Did you have any switchblade packing guys at your school, Sean?
I went to high school in a suburb in Connecticut, Bruce.
We had some brass
Oh,
knuckles in my middle school. That was something.
You had what?
There were kids with brass knuckles in my middle school. Of course, I went to, like, of all the middle schools to go to, I went to the most ghetto-y one. So it was rough and tumble where I was. The lockers were about 75 years old. It was fun times.
I know around the time Rambo came out, there was a rash of kids bringing like survival knives. I mean, like fourth graders bringing those big Rambo survival knives to school that they'd gotten for their birthday or Christmas or something, but no switchblades that I can recall.
I picture Bruce as a butterfly knife kind of guy.
I had a butterfly knife in high school.
There you
and
go.
I loved playing with that thing.
Sometimes you just see them and right out of the park.
Oh man, silver handle with the holes in it. Oh yeah.
It's so good.
You got to get that in Hazard, Kentucky. That's kind of that standard issue. Here's your math
Oh,
book
man.
and butterfly knife.
I could flop my butterfly knife like you wouldn't believe.
So I've got an idea. If we ever have the money to do it, we need to buy the rights to all of these shows in the 80s that were, just like 1, 2, 3 season superhero shows that you
Yeah.
never saw again, and make them all one team and have a shared universe and then build up the brand and then sell that.
Nice.
That's what we
So
need
you
to
have
do.
you have things like this movie, like this TV show, Greatest American Hero. He's your Superman. Then you have like Manimal.
And what was the guy that turned?
Automan.
Yeah, Automan. I was thinking of Turbo Teen, but that was a cartoon. The live action was
Turbo Teen
Automan.
is also an awesome idea, but it's getting getting a kid to turn into an IROC is pretty hard. Even to,
Oh, but Automan was good, man. Yeah, Manimal, Automan. There's got to be a couple more out there. Wasn't there? Oh, geez, I'm trying to think. There was like the guy that had Merlin's gift given to him, like some modern day sorcerer that the ghost of Merlin would visit him. He'd be another good one. He could be our Doctor Strange.
I don't know that show. What is that show?
TV was
I'll
weird.
have to do more research and get back to you. But I remember watching that as a kid.
Left a heck of an impression, clearly. I don't know what it's
Misfits
called.
of Science, man. We could get a couple of people from that show.
Yeah, well, see, for that you have a different shared universe where it's like Misfits of Science, the Whiz Kids, you have Blue Thunder, you have Street Hawk.
I'd like to get Blue Thunder and Airwolf in the same universe.
Man, that would be good.
But
We can probably get Jan Michael Vincent still, like right now, if we want.
and Powers Booth.
Powers Booth might be a little bit difficult, but Jan Michael Vincent will do it for $20 in a pita pocket. He'll be fine.
Weirdly, Dana Carvey was on the TV show Blue Thunder.
Nice, man.
Weird.
But with Greatest American Hero here, They did get sued by Warner Brothers for saying that, and Warner Brothers lost the suit, but they said it was infringing on Superman. And I would think by 1981 they had reached the point where they had to kind of get over that. I know it was a big deal in the Golden Age. They basically sued Captain Marvel, Shazam, out of business and took over Fawcett Comics. But I kind of think that by 1981, you got to understand that you can't quite just say a guy who's strong and flies is our thing.
Yeah, and let's well, we'll get there in a second, but we got to talk about this suit. But so I guess they meet Robert Culp in the diner there. The kid, like, he looks two ways at him, like, real quick, and then just like, hey, you wanna go at me, old man? Like 2 seconds into like just walking in there.
And Robert Culp pulls his pistol on the guy.
You say kid, he is probably the same age as William Katt in real life.
Yeah, that's true.
And he looks it. It looks like they're on this field trip. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Hinkley, can we go back home because I got to pay my mortgage?"
And we also kind of just blew past the cold open that had me wondering if I was watching the right video.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I thought the same thing, man.
We've got skinheads chasing a person of color in dune buggies.
But here's the thing, right? Like, that's like, I was like, wow, that's really progressive and modern that they're doing this in this TV show from 1981. And I was like, wow, they're fighting skinheads. Like, what a great idea. Until you go to the dude's base and there's black people working for him too.
And they never really comment on the fact that they're skinheads. I feel like all these actors were told they had to shave their head. And when they saw the finished product, they realized, you know what? We could have kept our hair and done the same thing.
Here's what I got. Here's what I got. Now, it looks like a Right Said Fred video gone wrong. But here's my idea. Is they went Robert Rodriguez style on this. We're just like, we're going to get like 10 dudes. We're going to have them all shave their heads. They're all muscly dudes. It's going to, like, we're just going to keep recycling these guys. So it's going to look like there's 1,000 of them.
There was a girl, too, with her head shaved, I noticed.
Yeah. Was she, and
She's
she
in
was
the dune buggy with the leader guy.
Yeah, and she starts singing a hymn out of nowhere, and it's just like, that's bizarre. Then there's no further comment on it. It's just like, no, just decided to pick up a hymnal and turn it to page 357 and go right at it. Okay, weird.
Pretty good.
I did like the way the aliens spoke through the radio. I remember thinking that was cool as a kid, and that's something I felt like it kind of held up and was still kind of cool now, especially seeing the old-fashioned radio dial jump back and forth.
The fact that Michael Bay and Transformers stole it in the first Transformers movie.
Yeah.
But you'd think all the aliens needed was a Mr. Microphone and turn it to a dead station. Isn't that how Mr. Microphone worked?
Yeah.
It is.
But the thing is that what kills me is they go back and forth between all the stations to get the different words, but there's only like 3 different voices. So it's not like
you got to give a little.
It's not like they had to find, the specific one for each one. It's just like they just happen to be saying the right word, out of context with just 3 people. I thought that was a little like, come on, guys. There weren't a couple other people up in the booth. You could have just said, hey, come in here and say the word, smoke or something or whatever, you had to say.
I was really surprised with how well the alien spaceship holds up.
That to me looked like this is where all the budget went for this pilot.
Yeah.
And at first, my expectations were set really low because we get a glow-in-the-dark beach ball flying through the air at first. And I thought this thing's going to look bad. It's going to look real bad. But then it comes down, and it's Close Encounters of the Third Kind level cool.
Well, here's the thing. The actual tone that they do is such a ripoff of Close Encounters. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's so clearly that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it works.
I guess
well
that
enough.
would have been pretty influential in 81.
What
really, was that, like a 1979, 1980 movie?
Yeah, right around. And it's clearly like influenced from that, and it's like I said, it's surprisingly done pretty well.
Yeah,
I got to agree. And
I think I watched this before I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because when I finally, as a child, watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind on like VHS or something, I remember being disappointed that they didn't give him a suit.
Oh, and when I watched this, I wanted somebody to carve the Devil's Tower in their mashed potatoes, and it never happened.
This is important. This means something.
I just see Sean seeing it like at like just kind of a revival theater a couple years later, and all of a sudden the ship comes down, and he just goes, "Rip off!" And everybody starts throwing stuff.
But, what'd you think about when Ralph finally does decide to start trying the suit on, and his kid's downstairs watching Super Friends, and the phone rings, and he's like, man, the world has changed. How old is that kid? 6 years old, max?
Yeah, right. 6, 7, maybe. Yeah.
And he's like, just answer the phone, take a message. If it's an offer to buy the car, don't go any lower than $675. Also, if it's a lawyer, tell him that the briefs have been filed. I mean, he's just giving his kid all this responsibility while he's dressed up in a super suit.
Hey, why
And
don't you
when he
just
finally-
go pay the mortgage and mow the lawn, you idiot?
And when he finally opens the door, he's tried to yank the suit off fast, and he's in his underpants and his cape.
Oh my god!
There's no way you get that suit off with the cape still on. That'd be like I have a nice dinner, like a tuxedo jacket over top of a dress shirt, and the kid knocks on the door, and I rip off the tuxedo, but somehow still have the jacket on. That's about what this is.
So, Adam, what do you think of this suit?
This is the. Oh my gosh! It's like they went with the first draft and said, "Yep, that's what we're doing."
I love this
it.
suit.
I love
this suit.
It's not. Here's the thing. It's like because and I say first draft because it's like it's not horrible, but it's just like it feels like a half-baked idea. Like the line for the boots is just terrible. It's like make the boots like a slightly different color, or make the the line for the boots a little bit better. The basic he's wearing a skirt for crying out loud.
I like the skirt, man.
The cape is terrible.
It's so hard. I liked it. I liked
did
everything
too.
about it then. I think it holds up really well.
I was really surprised.
It's so hard to make an original superhero costume that's in no way a ripoff and doesn't have that generic, non-branded, stock photo quality to it. They did a really good job. I think the emblem is wonderful. It's unique. It's not really mimicking anything else out there, and nothing else has really followed it very closely. I think that one of the most amazing things that the creatives behind the show did is create a suit that's probably better than the show itself.
Agreed. I totally agree with you. And I think that here's the testament. I have watched the show maybe five times in 40 years, right?
Yeah.
I still know what that logo is. If I see someone out wearing that shirt, I know exactly what that is.
And this is the thing that people, in the business world trying to design logos and stuff, that golden sort of the golden combination of very simple yet unique. And that's hard to come by. And that emblem on there is just iconic. It's one of those accomplishments of beauty, the symmetry, everything is perfect. Doesn't look like anything else, very distinct, but it's also so simple, it's easy to reproduce and highly recognizable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the creative types that try to come up with new superhero costumes, I read a lot more indie comics maybe than other folks do. I get like really, really hardcore indie stuff sent to me for Chubby Wizard and things. And most people just try too hard on the costume. And with this costume, they just seem to hit it right and know when to stop.
Well, I mean, but we got to be honest, though. I mean, the symbol is basically just the red dragon symbol, but kind of restylized a little bit.
It's actually there are a lot of stories about this symbol. One thing I'll say is that it's there's multiple written languages in China. In one of the languages, it's the word for center is what that character represents. Also, folks have said it's an open book with a needle in the middle. And then Cannell says that it's a pair of scissors that was sitting on his desk that looked like that, which makes me wonder, was he having a severe migraine? Was he eating mushrooms, or did he have some very poorly made scissors?
There's those kitty ones that can't even cut butter.
I can't see scissors, man. I've tried hard. I see everything except the scissors.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Chinese name for the show was Flying Red Center Hero because that meant center.
Sure.
That's great.
But and it was symmetrical on purpose because in flying, I guess when they get the flying footage, sometimes they flip it to get it to look like he's flying in a different direction or whatever. And with the old Superman show, you could see the S backwards whenever they would flip the footage. And with this, it's a symmetrical logo, so when they flip it, you don't get that problem.
You mean to tell
Very
me
smart.
they scrimped when they were doing 80s superhero television programs? They just weren't throwing money around willy-nilly?
They didn't scrimp on hair care products.
Oh my goodness!
Definitely not. Between William Katt and Connie Sellecca, unreal the hair budget on this show.
And talk about two characters who, in my opinion, couldn't be further apart. Like, I get the idea that we're supposed to think William Katt is a heartthrob. Is there a continuity that I'm not aware of where chicks really used to dig William Katt?
Well, here's the thing: is that what you're not keeping in mind is the Austin Powers thought, where in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, if people told you this person is good looking through the media, everyone just assumed they were good looking. Like, I don't think anyone would ever say Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees was a really good looking guy, but he was doing okay when he was in the Monkees.
I have to concede that point because I do believe Charles Bronson was considered a sex symbol at one point in time.
Absolutely true. Michael York is another one of those guys.
But then on the flip side of that, I get the idea we're supposed to think Connie Sellecca is a little frumpy and stuffy. And I got to tell you, from my 80s memory, she's one of the 3 hottest women that ever lived, right there with Farrah Fawcett and Linda Carter.
Well, look at who she was with. Gil Gerard, Buck Rogers himself, and John Tesh. Come on.
She was pulling down some high class man friends back then.
You were going into Adam territory there. I could feel it.
High class man friends.
Would you like me to be a high class man friend? Huh? What do you say?
But I thought Gil Gerard was all about Aaron Gray. You know, I assumed if you were on a show with a guy, you had to be dating him.
Of course. Just think, guys, we were a heartbeats away from having William Katt actually be our Luke Skywalker.
I could see it. I could see it.
I could totally see it.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised he wasn't in some ways, but I could absolutely see him. And especially in the first movie, man, what a annoying little punk Luke was. He would have been good at that.
I like what he does here. I mean, like, you know, he plays the part that's kind of assigned to him quite well. He tries to be hard and everything, still kind of comes off. But you're right. You said a little bit earlier of just trying to put in all the kind of thoughts of the day, if you will. I mean, so we're like, hey, we want it to be an awesome superhero show for kids, but we also want it to have a little bit of Kramer versus Kramer in it. Can we shuffle that in somehow?
Man.
Kids like that.
It's the 80s. They were trying to be topical on every point.
And poor kid, God bless this little child, because he's like, they forced me to be here. I don't want to be here, but I'm going to say these lines because I have to, because my mom's on the other side of the camera and she's going to murder me.
They're only paying me in Super Friends reruns. Help! But speaking of little kids, we got to move this along. But when William Katt finally does put on the suit and try to use the powers, and he's in that public restroom, and the father with his son starts freaking out because a guy's in a superhero costume in a bathroom, that's not the kind of thing that gets a response from me nowadays, but maybe in 81.
Well,
right.
Just like, hey, there's a weird guy who could, like, all I'm thinking is this is like, Diddlin City over here. I'm just like, well, you better run.
But then here's the thing. He's so worried about his child's safety around this guy in a superhero costume that he calls the police. But where does the child end up? Behind a dumpster in a dead-end alleyway.
Welcome to 1981.
Your kids for safekeeping in the 80s?
Hide behind this dumpster. It'll be safe.
And, of course, he's the same kid that tells William Katt how to activate his flying powers.
I love it because, I mean, it's really done. It's done quite well. Where he tries a couple of times, and it's like the startup of the music, and it never gets going. And he does it twice, and the kid's like, "Hey, Mister, you're doing it all wrong. You gotta take 3 steps before you go and do it, and jump off with all of your might."
And I don't know if either of you guys have played any Lego Dimensions, but they've got to make eventually a Greatest American Hero Lego Dimensions, because I could just imagine every time you start flying and you got the music playing, how awesome it'd be to play that game.
That actually would be amazing.
That would be good.
But, I wonder if Brian Michael Bendis was a fan of the show as a kid, Sean, because Jessica Jones in the original Alias run, kind of part of her story is that she could fly okay, but she was no good at landing. And I always thought that was a straight up Ralph Hinkley.
Oh, that's a neat point. And he's our age, so that would make sense.
Yeah, he's not as handsome, but he's our age.
No one's as handsome as Bruce Leslie.
No.
Oh,
Try
I'm
as
just
they
using it
might.
collectively. I have better hair than Bendis. I'll say that.
There you go.
But I kind of wondered if he was a fan of this.
But great special effects.
Well, we got to talk about the big plot and the story behind the story and how this show almost got 9/11.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, so here's the deal, man. The plot of this pilot episode is they're trying to stop an assassination attempt on the president. And, of course, our hero's name is Ralph Hinkley.
Of course.
And this movie debuted 12 days before John Hinkley attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan.
That's what I was wondering when this landed in that pantheon there, because I was just like, oh, Hinkley, I wonder how long this lasted, because, you know.
And not only that, people were red hot that this guy's name in the show is Hinkley. I mean, furious.
But this came out March 18th. March 30th was when the Secret Serviceman, was his name John Brady, got shot trying to help save the president from that assassination attempt. And then when episode 2 came around, they did some AVR and changed his name to Hanley for like 2 weeks. Then it just kind of went back to Hinkley.
Huh.
James Brady.
My apologies to the Brady family.
James Brown. I don't know. That's where my head went. But no. They don't even start slow, man. You'd think, okay, it's his first superhero gig. Maybe he stops a jewelry store robbery, but they start right off with assassination attempt on the president. And I just like...
It's a good plan. It's a good plan to stop the helicopter. I was really surprised by that, actually. Like, that was a very clever way to stop it from landing.
Pick up a couple of 5Ks and shot him in the windows. It works.
I know.
And I do like the way that, Ralph is kind of conveniently discovering new powers at the exact moment when they need to be discovered. And you get this idea of maybe some divine guidance from the aliens, but it's kind of fun. That was one of the fun things, because this show, I'll say, when the ratings started to flag a little bit, I would suspect, I mean, I didn't follow the Nielsen ratings back in the 80s, but he would start to discover a new power every episode there for a while. So it made it fun. You wanted to tune in and see what was his new power going to be this week.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
That instruction manual is thick. Like, there is a lot going on with that suit.
Yeah.
It had a lot of illustrations, I thought.
See, I imagine it's like when you buy a new piece of technology, there's actually 2 pages of instructions, but it's printed in 37 languages.
Most of it's warranty information.
Yeah.
But I did think, but like I thought about that, I was like, oh, that's actually a good idea, because you could introduce those new things whenever you wanted to, and just go like, oh, here's another thing that we didn't know. Thank goodness we lost that instruction manual, so now we can just make up some BS whenever we want to. It's a good ploy.
And they
got not only that, but you get to have the origin story every single week, because if he's got a new power he doesn't know how to deal with, you have like the funny, goofy, oh, I'm getting it now.
And then by the end, he masters it.
They started to add some weird powers too. Like he could, he had ESP at one point. Like he could predict the future. He could talk to ghosts. I'm surprised they never got around to the point where he could time travel, and maybe they did, and I missed it. But they started. You could tell they were just real,
and then he dies.
Oh,
he never did rip the He never did. He never did rip the logo off his chest and throw it at anybody, though.
Oh, thank heavens. I just figure by season 3, he's just like, I'm gonna microwave this with my hands. That's okay. You got hot food now. Good luck, I guess.
Well, eventually they like with the old Superman comic books, they just run out of ideas and they run out of things. So like he starts doing weird things where like a little version of him will shoot out of his hand, and like all that.
Hey, we're still doing that. Doesn't he have didn't Superman recently have some sort of nuclear power or some such nonsense?
Yeah, he could go Nova.
Yeah. All right. Sure. It's called. Well, he's only had these powers for 50 years. Let's find one that he had dormant.
75.
Something I think was a nice touch, and I don't know if it's because they were clever and wise and did it this way, or if they never thought of doing it any other way. But the fact that the media never branded him as the Red Blur, or the Super Buzz Man, they never gave him even like a nickname he hated, but the media used to refer to him. They never really dealt with that side of it. Like he never did get any kind of superhero name attached to him.
Well, I can tell you that one of the problems that the show has is that the network would flip from leadership. So like season 1 to season 2, the powers that be at ABC on season 2 were like, we need to make the show more kid friendly. And so the whole writer's room is scrambling to make it more kid friendly instead of getting into some fun stuff like that. They're like, okay, so he's going to have to stop a nuclear warhead or something, like much bigger, broader things than trying to make Major League Baseball fair,
Yeah. And, the original production company was, I guess, Carsey Warner, and then it went to regular network production, like the network purchased the show. And that's when I think some of that, I don't know, when did Disney and ABC merge? I know The Wonderful World of Disney was on ABC at this time, so maybe they were trying to aim more towards the kids towards the end of this run.
It's like, I want to say it's early 90s that happens.
Well, they had a strong relationship prior to that happening, though.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah, but I'm going to give you guys something that I bet you didn't know. But now, hopefully this doesn't shock you. But William Katt hated wearing that costume.
Get out of Dodge.
What?
That's part of why we see so little of it in the show is like he had it in his contract that there was a maximum number of hours per day he would wear the suit.
Oh, he was the Jennifer Lawrence of his time.
Only with better hair.
True.
And you have to wonder at some point, did he ever have a wig? Because there's times, man, even in this pilot, where that hair looks like it's holding on for dear life. Like, I have to think maybe he started getting a little male pattern baldness, and that's a wig on there.
He changes hairstyles later because it's not so, like Surf Rat at the like it is in this pilot in later episodes. I could have sworn on the first watch of this, I could have sworn I was like, there was no way his hair was that big when I was a kid, because I would that's all I would have been able to think about, and I was right. Like season 2 or 3, they let him crop it up. And
now this might say more about me than it does about William Katt, but in my memory, I remembered the hair being bigger. Like the hair is what I remembered. The hair first, the costume second, landing third.
Bruce is like,
he looks like the leader of the Hair Bear Bunch.
Yeah, I really did have memories of something akin to that. It's like Coolio with blonde hair. I mean, I really remembered it being just wild and out there. I was kind of surprised that it clung to that it kind of hung down. It was not the gravity-defying coif I seem to remember.
I remember it sexier. That's what he's really trying to say.
I remembered it a little more like Gabe Kaplan.
Just exactly like that. All right.
Only blonde, of course.
So he thwarts the bad guy, as we all do, and then we finally up until almost the end there, we finally get the song proper, which is nice.
That's one drawback to the pilot is they don't open with the same opening that they would use on later episodes, where you get to really enjoy the song and see clips. And I think it's because that opening was so fun that I remembered more costumed heroics, because of course the opening clips are all him in his costume and Robert Culp scowling at him.
How dare you?
Yeah, him smashing into the wall like he does in this pilot here. Like that's always in it.
But of course, then what's so weird though, and what makes me, because like again, I only remember bits and pieces and obviously reruns by the time that I was old enough to watch and comprehend what the heck was going on. The end of this makes me actually want to go and watch more of it, because they do leave it at the end there where Culp's like, "Look, man, you got to quit your job as a teacher, and we're gonna come and we're gonna fight crime together."
I will tell you, the thing that I am probably going to watch on my own is the final episode of this, because they tried to revitalize the show later, and they put it on the end of season 3 where the costume changes hands to a woman.
Yeah, Greatest American Heroine. Which has a whole new meaning in this town I live in now, but that's another story. But if I were the one episode I'd like to dig back up and watch again, and I don't know what season it was, but I do remember it, is they run across, it turns out there was another like federal marshal who was teamed up with a guy that got a super suit given to him by the aliens. But this guy went pure jerk. So he was like the evil, like the greatest American villain, I guess you could say. He had all the powers that Hinkley had. and he still had his instruction book. So I think that's why they sought him out in the first place. But then the guy's just a total jerk and like using all of his powers for the wrong reasons. And I remember that being kind of epic, where we got to see greatest American heroes dueling, and the costumes had some color variations to them or something. I want to look that up again and watch it again. I got to figure out what episode that was.
Wow, that's so cool, man. That's almost like the Knight Rider where he's going up against Goliath.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And Michael Knight
cool.
has a mustache or whatever.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Or Kit versus Car.
Kit versus Car. And then but Goliath is the big rig that also has the same thing that Kit has.
Yeah, I'm more of a Kit versus Car kind of guy, I guess. Or like the time Bo and Luke met Coy and Vance. I loved that episode.
That is the best episode of Dukes of Hazzard ever, for sure.
Oh, it's got to be that, or the one that ended with the country music singer passing through town and playing at the Boar's Nest.
All of them.
If it weren't for James Best, I wouldn't love that show so much.
That was my show as a kid, was some Dukes of Hazzard. That was Adam's first TV love. All right, so let's get down to it. Before we land our final ratings on this bad boy and everything, we got to find out how this television program relates back to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
Before I get into it, I got to tell you guys, this was a fun one.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Oh. Mike Post is one of two guys that wrote the theme song to The Greatest American Hero. In 1981, Believe It or Not was released as a single and peaked at number 2 on the Billboard's charts that summer. But the hits don't stop there. I hope everyone's sitting down or not prone to fainting, because Mike Post also wrote the themes for both Law and Order and the frickin' A-Team.
Wow.
Mike Post has been quietly writing the soundtrack to our lives for 30 years. The Rockford Files, Hill Street Blues, Magnum P.I., Mystery Science Theater 3000, Grumpy Cat's Worst Christmas Ever. Threw that in there to show everyone that everyone has to work on crap sometimes. And he wrote the theme to Caged Heat. Caged Heat! Yes. Come on, are you kidding me? Mike Post isn't a name that gets thrown around, and I would like to know why the hell that is. He should be mentioned in the same sentence as John Williams and Danny Elfman, and I am being 100% serious. I didn't even name a quarter of the projects he's worked on, and you've heard of most of them. But if that wasn't weird enough, he isn't even the most famous person from his high school's graduating class, because he went to school with Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck! The guy who wrote the theme song to Quantum Leap isn't even the most successful person in his grade. Unbelievable. Can you imagine what that 20-year high school reunion must have been like? A lot of disappointment in that room. Mike Post played guitar on the Sonny and Cher song I Got You, Babe. Wow. At age 24, he became the music conductor on the Andy Williams Show, which was a show that was mostly music. He won 5 Grammys. He's won both a Daytime Emmy and a Primetime Emmy. And in 1985, he was nominated for a Razzie Award for Worst Musical Score on the movie that killed musicals for about 20 years, Rhinestone. And Rhinestone starred the most popular student of his high school's graduating class, Sylvester Stallone. This is the first time on H&P where Rhinestone happens to be the Stallone connection, and if I seem giddy, it's because I am. In an interview, Sylvester Stallone said that if there were any films he wished he hadn't done, Rhinestone is that movie. The guy who starred in Stop or My Mom Will Shoot and Avenging Angelo has regrets about a different movie altogether. If you haven't ever seen Rhinestone, it is in rare air, because it's the type of movie you can't believe that it was ever made every second you're watching it. Dolly Parton is in it, and she's her usual delightful self, but the surprising part is just how much Sylvester Stallone sings in it, because he sings in it a lot. You think you're prepared for how much Stallone sings in it, but you're not. You're not prepared. This movie is like 30% of Sylvester Stallone singing. Stallone turned down the Michael Douglas role in Romancing the Stone and the lead in Beverly Hills Cop to make Rhinestone, and the world thanks him for taking that L. The original screenwriter, Phil Robinson, was so upset by Stallone's extensive changes to his screenplay for Rhinestone that he seriously considered taking his name off it, but was convinced that having his name on something this high profile and of this, quote, caliber, unquote, would look good on his resume. And they were right, because he would go on to write Field of Dreams and the criminally underrated movie Sneakers. And while art is subjective and is generally a matter of opinion, everyone can agree that Rhinestone is a flaming Mazda Miata of a movie. And it even made the top 100 worst movies of all time by the same people who make the Razzies. But Mike Post isn't the reason why Rhinestone is so bad. But if we're all being honest with each other, it probably lands on the shoulders of the guy this segment is named after. But hopefully, Mike Post gets a pass on this. So there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone connection. Now, Richard Farnsworth and Ron Liebman, the other two leads of Rhinestone, let's review the greatest American hero so we can binge watch the rest of the greatest American hero and its attempted spinoff, The Greatest American Heroine.
Oh, man, I saw Rhinestone in the movie theater, man. I never missed a Dolly Parton movie back then.
I was about to say, it was all Parton for you, wasn't it?
It was, but I can still sing that song about Budweiser, you created a monster, and his name is Drinkenstein. I love that song.
All right, so let's get down to it here on Hero Movie Podcast. We don't have, any kind of regular ratings or anything like that. We only have the patented Robin rating system. If you want to check out what that is, you can head down to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the page. And while you're there, how about you throw a like on that bad boy? Bruce, what is your rating for the pilot episode of The Greatest American Hero?
I think this is hard to rate, man. It's kind of tricky here. This show, this movie, this pilot definitely isn't going to bring in any new fans. Like, if you've never seen Greatest American Hero before, this is not going to win you over. But for people with fond memories, well, they probably shouldn't watch this either. Skip to like episode 3 if you want to revisit the property. It's not completely bad. It does have some serious pacing issues, and the biggest crime is it's different than the way we remembered it. So I'm going to give it a Stephanie Brown.
All right, Mr. Keenan.
You know, I'm going Damian Wayne on this because I'm feeling very generous towards this show. It's bad. This is not a fun show, and it's not bad in a good way. It's not the kind of bad like The Incredible Hulk on trial is bad. Like this, you cannot start laughing at the show because it's done well enough to where you're like, oh, you guys almost got it. You know, it's one of those shows. I totally want to see a remake of this, though. I think that would be fun, and I think that would be cool. They got to have a lot more aliens in this thing, though. So for me, it's a Damian Wayne.
I think at some point, way back when, I remember, kind of rumblings of them trying to kind of redo this. It's shocking they haven't.
2010.
Yeah. All right, down to me. Like I said, I was not of this earth as of yet. I'd only ever really seen bits and pieces in reruns when I was a kid. And by the time I was old enough to really kind of, be super cognizant of a lot of this stuff, there were, a lot of superhero stuff on television. And I grew up in a superhero household. So that was kind of like, Greatest American Hero was kind of like the Kmart version of superheroes. I was like, I got the real thing over here. Why do I need to go see this garbage? So, I was lucky in that way. But looking back on this, man, I'll be honest with you, I thought I was absolutely going to hate this and that it was just going to be a slog and a bore and everything. And I actually had a lot of fun. I mean, again, it's not great. It's 1981 all over for sure. But with what it does and as corny and cheesy as it kind of is, it sort of worked for me, man. So I'm going to give this a Carrie Kelly. I mean, I don't think it's amazingly good, but it certainly has its place. And I think if you were of this kind of era and everything, or you can look back fondly at that kind of era if you weren't around then, you might dig on it, man.
Agreed.
So, yeah. All right, so next week is interesting because next week will be our Patreon supporter episode. And as of this recording, gentlemen, we're tied for our winner.
Ooh.
Now,
I like it.
Now, not everyone has voted, and so we have like 20 supporters on Patreon right now. Not everyone has voted, so if you haven't voted yet, please go ahead and do that. And if you'd like to sway the vote one way or the other, patreon.com/HMP. Even if you sign up for the dollar plan, you can still always vote on the movie that we'll cover. Right now, the choices are The Mask of Zorro, Barbed Wire, Unbreakable, and 2 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. And right now, Unbreakable and Batman the Animated Series are tied for first place.
Dang.
So, we're going to give you till Wednesday. Is that, I didn't run this ahead of you guys. That gives us enough time, yeah?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll give you till Wednesday, and if there's not one, we'll go ahead and make an executive decision as to which one will win. But I think you guys will help us kind of steer the bus in the right direction, if you will. The short bus that they drove in Greatest American Hero in the right direction. I don't know. So that's patreon.com/HMP. Let's see.
Let me tell you, if it ends up being Unbreakable and the song at the beginning of the show is an Unbreakable.
I'm already seeing it in my head before you said it. That's why I'm so quiet.
Something is wrong.
Of course. I mean, that's kind of how this
Why
show
don't we
works.
just do like 6 episodes of Kimmy Schmidt and call it an episode next week?
Sure. Why not?
I know that first season by heart. I love that show.
Good stuff.
Very good show.
Let's see. Sean, in the meantime, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
Oh, man, where can't you find my work is a better question. Just go to Twitter and find me at Hero Movie Sean.
And I hear that we need to give our friend Bruce here a little bit of extra time on his plugs this week. Bruce, here you got some fancy stuff going on, my friend.
This is a shorter plug. There'll be a longer plug on this topic in a couple of weeks, but I've got kind of the ebook is out there. The ebook for Dragon and the Needles is out there. I just kind of quietly snuck it on the Facebook page. I'm not pushing it hard yet. This is sort of like for beta readers, you know? It's just the ebook. Paperback will be coming out later. Just in case there's anything to change, it's a lot easier to do a revision on an ebook than to print it out, send them out, then have to go around, round them up, use whiteout and all that stuff.
That's true.
But Dragon and the Needles, if you go to the Facebook page, you can see I kind of put a little link there to it. I'd love for some folks. It's only $1.99, man. It's an ebook. And I'm going to separate myself from it and try to be objective because, you know, your emotions get involved in your own creation. But if I stand back as a disinterested third party, I could say it's easily the greatest book ever written. So people should go check it out. It's about 60,000 words, not too long, sheer lunacy. If nothing else, you can make fun of me about it. For $2, man, making fun of me is worth it.
He's got that Adam Porter's confidence about him. Take me out of it. It's the greatest thing God ever gifted to the world.
The sequel will be better, I promise. I'm going to reboot everything.
Every book is just a reboot of the same thing. Who are you, George Lucas?
Awesome. Oh man, I've already got my next 2 books kind of planned out in my mind, and I think not the next one's going to be Chubby Wizard themed. But I think the one after that, I may try to put together a Leslie verse story for people.
Oh man, that'd be great.
There are already people on the Facebook going, "Is this the first book in the Leslie verse?"
So I'm cutting my chops on one that's not in universe.
See,
I'll get there.
See, here's the thing, Sean, is that, you know, we've always, since this show started, wouldn't it be funny if we had this movie about our show? I think this is the way to get in. We just have Bruce write the book about the movie, and then we option that off. That's how we get into this game.
Yeah, isn't that how Hollywood works, Sean? Somebody who's never done anything before, that's has no practice, just writes something. Somebody reads it on the internet and offers them $500, and then they make a movie.
That's exactly how it works. Yeah.
And then you just go, "Oh, you made Lord of the Rings, and I only have $500. Super."
Meanwhile, there's a guy who for 30 years has been honing his screenplays and can't get anything picked up, while this guy with a blog gets a movie made.
Yeah, that's kind of how shit works. We're looking at you, Max Tucker, whatever that cat's name was. All right, everybody, that is it. Join us next week for, well, we don't know yet. Maybe it's Unbreakable, maybe it's Batman, maybe Barbed Wire comes out of nowhere and just goes into first place. The heck if I know. Patreon.com/HMP. And Preacher Podcast, all that other stuff. We got some more things coming down the bag, man. 2017 is going to be the year for HMP and friends. That is it, everybody. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
I'm already an idiot.
This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made me great. And the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control.
that George isn't at home. Please leave a message at the beep. I must be out or I'd pick up the phone. Where could I